Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello and welcome to another episode of A Day Late and a Dollar Short. My name is Palladium Moores and I'll be your host for the day. Today's subject is Persona 3 and its iterations. By that I mean Persona 3, Persona 3 FES, and P3P. Alright, quick and the dirty. Persona 3, 8. Persona 3 FES, 8.5. P3P, 9. All of these games feature an extremely fantastic story, great characters, amazing music, okay combat, but suffer from the same issues that Persona 4 has in that the dungeons are kind of lackluster, and the enemies just absolutely lack any sort of variation. Yeah, you'll be fighting the same guys a lot in this game. With that being said, P3P actually improves quite a bit on the series as it goes, so that's why it gets the 9. Alright, for those of you who are just here for that, thank you and take it easy. Now, for the rest of you, let's get into this thing. First off, as I said before, the story on this thing is absolutely amazing. This is a fantastically woven story that covers the full spectrum of emotions. Overall, it's a pretty dark little story. This is a pretty crapsack world. But it improves as you go. Question mark? Maybe I should say the characters' moods improve as you go, so that really helps to pick things up. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to give any spoilers here, just in case you haven't played it, and if you haven't, go out and do that. Just stop listening to this review and go play it now, please. Characters, all the characters are great. They're all different, they're all unique, and all of them grow throughout the story, except Koro-chan, and that's okay, because he's a pooch. He's an adorable little doggy, so he's okay. He doesn't have to grow, but everyone else does. They develop as the story goes on. They all mature. They all become better characters. I actually think that Persona 3 probably handles that better overall than Persona 4 does. But Persona 3, you don't really feel like all the characters are friends with each other so much as they're friends with you. And it works. They each have their little groups and they work. Here's a case of it actually working pretty well and not being a massive detriment to the story. So yeah. What else? Music! Holy crap, the music in this game is awesome. Like, I realized I didn't respond like that to Persona 4's music, and Persona 4's music is really good, but I always go back and forth on which game I think has better music. But I think Persona 3's music had a heavier impact on me overall. It's a bit more metal, so maybe that explains it. I'm not sure, but either way, if you're getting nothing else from this game, get the soundtrack. Unless you don't like Japanese, of course, in which case, never mind. Combat's okay. Combat's decent. It's not fantastic, but it's good. It serves what it needs to serve. But with that being said, I'm going to contradict myself again, because combat's also going to show up on the cons, and I'll explain why when I get there. That's it for the pros, so let's hop into the cons. Oh, this, I think, was the start of the bad dungeon design. Here's the thing, the full moon dungeons and the full moon bosses are actually pretty cool, and they have such a wide variety of places that it's really awesome, and I would have liked to have had more like that. Persona 4's dungeons were sort of loosely based on that concept, but I don't think they fully fleshed it out. Like, Persona 3, your first full moon dungeon is a train. It's a stopped train. The second is a brothel. There's no other way to put that. A love hotel or motel or whatever is your second one, which is kind of a creepy thing, but also pretty cool. And then my favorite is actually the abandoned military base. It's also unfortunately the shortest, but they do a very good job of making it a creepy little encounter. And it sounds like I'm praising it again, but these are not where you'll be spending most of your time, unfortunately. You'll be spending most of your time in Tartarus, and dear God, what a dull, drab, and boring place that is. The colors change occasionally, and that's, yeah. That's pretty much all I've got to say about that. Enemies are the same. Enemies will be fighting the same enemies over and over and over, and Persona 3 actually has that issue worse than 4, I think. You will get occasional enemies who are boss enemies who then become normal enemies later on, and you're not going to enjoy that for reasons I'm about to get into. But, oh dear Lord. Okay, so that was dungeons and enemy designs. Combat also kind of goes here too, because combat likes to work against you in this game. Because in Persona 3 and Persona 3 FES, which is, by the way, the trailer that I used, you don't have direct control over your other characters. So they're going to do pretty much what they want to do. You can give them commands, you can give them general commands, And, like, for the most part, they'll follow them pretty well. Yukari, in particular, is a solid healer, and I pretty much always have her in my party because of that. Although, you'll be a better healer if you want to do that way. You've got so many better things to be doing as your main character. But other characters are just odd with their choices. Like, if you were in control of these other characters, which you do get to be in P3P, then combat would go much faster. So, when you've got... And this is going to be a big example, and anyone who's played it pretty much knows what I'm talking about, as long as I didn't just play P3P. Mitsuru loves Marin Karin. She will spam charm. It's like, sweetheart, you're not that charming. I'm sorry. Come on, please. Just stop that. Bufu, or stab them in the face, or anything other than what you're doing now. And that just goes into some of the other issues the combat system has, and that's that enemies like to spam cheap spells or cheap abilities. Persona 4 has one enemy who has an overpowered attack he does. He's the bonus dungeon in the bonus boss in the first dungeon you go through in the castle, and he has, honestly, I feel like it's a glitched ability, but they've not fixed it in Golden. And it's Rampage, except his Rampage completely ignores defense. So he's got Rampage hitting at full numbers with his strength being what it is. There are a lot of enemies in here who hit kind of like that, but without the excuse of a glitch. There are also a lot of enemies who love to use instant death spells. So, yeah. Mudo and... I can't even remember the live version. I think I'm blocking out the names of those spells because... and they have a pretty high hit rate in this game. This is another one of those where if you die, if your main character dies, that's it for your party. So it kind of works against it. Not having control, not having the blocks that Persona 4 does, which is your party members later on can throw themselves in front of you, and typically start to do so if you've been keeping up with your social links, about the time that instant death spells become a thing. I was about to say Mudo and Hama, thank you, Mudo and Hama, but I had forgotten Hama until right then. You do have homunculi in Persona 3 FES and Persona 3. And I think in Persona 3, or P3P, they actually do the whole they'll throw themselves in front of you thing again. Because P3P is basically, like, right behind Persona 4 insofar as systems go. I'm pretty sure they updated P3P later to follow along those lines, because Persona 4 did make a lot of improvements. But unfortunately, it does affect both Persona 3 and Persona 3 FES, and definitely knocks them in the head a bit. What else? Like, that's the big thing, the combat. So we'll go on to the differences and what makes P3P better than the other two. First off, I love Persona 3, and I hated having to give it an 8 because I feel like it's a better game than that, but it just has a lot of things working against it. The dungeons, the enemies, and the combat. All three kind of work together to make it kind of a frustrating thing at times. Persona 3 FES, I'm just going to call it FES from now on, although this video is about over, fixes a number of those issues, but still has the core issues there. But it also introduces combo attacks, which allow you to use some pretty high-powered abilities by using a combination of two personas. An early one is, I can't remember what it's called, but it heals everyone for about half of their hit points and increases your evasion at a time when you're not going to have the evasion increasing spell, which, yes, judge me, I can't remember the name of right now because I don't use it. That's awful of me, I know. Like, you couldn't survive in Nocturne. I'll bring up Shin Megami Tensei 3 here, but you couldn't survive boss fights in Nocturne without knocking down your opponent's hit rate. I just can't remember it in the Persona series because largely they're enough easier to where they're not a necessity. But yeah, no, FES introduced that, and okay, FES also introduced something else that I'll get to after I cover each of these individuals, but I don't find it to be a positive personally. And then P3P obviously increased the systems up to where P4 is. Not quite as pretty in a lot of cases, but still, it increases it to where combat is about as effective as it is in Persona 4. And that's so appreciated. FES also introduced costumes, if you're into that kind of thing, but they do take up an armor slot at this point. Thankfully, they learned that lesson in Persona 4, and now outfits actually just have their own separate little slot down there. Yeah, no. So, oh, and P3P also introduces skill cards again. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Right now, I cannot remember off the top of my head if Persona 3 or FES had skill cards, but I'm wanting to say they didn't. But that does allow you to customize your persona as you see fit, if you don't mind doing a little bit of farming for it. Oh, yeah, no, I forgot. I missed a couple negatives, guys. Sorry. Persona 3 and FES also have an ability called the exhaustion system, to where the longer you spend in dungeons, the more tired you get, to where if you reach an exhausted state, you, for one, become a pansy, and that you're going to miss more often and not get back up from having fallen down quite so fast. Like, there's a chance you'll just be like, no, I'm just going to lay here on the ground. Which, you know what? I can see you looking at me saying, that makes sense, though. Yeah, but this is a game where you summon giant demons by putting a gun to your head and pulling the trigger. I'm not looking for realistic here. But it really worked against your grinding, because you could only go so long before everyone's like, you know what, screw it, we're done. And then if you went back to the bottom floor in that state, people would leave your party if they were tired. This was frustrating. Later on, it stops meaning as much, because the more you level up, the longer they can go in dungeons, so eventually it just stops mattering, and you're probably going to be popping back down before you even get exhausted, because there's no reason to keep going. But when it's a thing, it's a really annoying thing. You can also get sick by doing that, and I actually kind of like that, I'm not going to lie. I don't know why I didn't like the exhaustion system, but hey, getting sick from overworking yourself, that's cool. That's me being weird, I think. Finally, P3P removed that. So that was another positive thing that allowed you to have a bit more freedom in what you're doing, if you so desired. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, another positive thing that P3P added is the option to play as a girl. To play as a female protagonist throughout the entire campaign. I thought that was a cool little switch. It changes up a lot of things, and it was appreciated. P3P only does a couple of things kind of negatively, and that's just one's personal preference and one is a necessary tone down for the PSP. And the first is that you no longer run through school halls and through the mall and all that fun stuff. Now it's just a static background and you pick your location. It's kind of but I understand. The second thing is that your main character can no longer equip any weapon he wants. I mean, he could never equip Agas's guns or Koro's daggers, but you know what I mean. He now is restricted to a one-handed saber, which I don't actually understand the point to that one, but it's not a huge deal. It's just I like to be able to just stick whatever I want on. I thought it was fun. However, and this is something, because my wife plays this game as well, she plays P3P, the female character gets a really badass naginata. And it's not fair, because I get stuck poking things. Oh yeah, one final thing I will talk about is FES added the answer, which is an extension on to base Persona 3, which continues on after the ending. I'm not going to go out any spoilers there, because there's some pretty heavy spoilers for the game, but I didn't like it. I think it stripped out so much of what made Persona 3 good, and replaced it with nothing with a combat system, and likewise dungeons. And you guys at this point, I think, know how I feel about the dungeons in Persona 3. These dungeons added in the answer weren't any better. It's the same enemies all over again, and you start back out at level 20, which if you've gone through all of the journey first, going back to level 20 at that point is kind of a kick in the nuts. And then everything else, if it's not dungeon involved or possibly storyline involved, it's not there, to put it simply. And I mean, there's storyline reasons for it, but it's still just, it wasn't particularly fun to me, and I didn't really enjoy the additional writing. It's like P4 Golden, in my review on that. I did not enjoy the additional writing they did there, and I didn't like that Persona 3 ends on a pretty ambiguous note. You can make some estimated guesses as to what happened and what's going on, but they don't give you a definite answer. And I like that kind of ending. I like it when they kind of leave you in that what happened area. And FES is the answer, just destroys that. It gives you the answer, and you're not going to like it. Although a large part of the answer is trying to fix that. But yeah, I think that's going to about do it for that. I think I've covered everything I need to in those 3 games. So yeah, they got better as Atlus went on with them. And that's about all I've got to say. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to poke the like button for me. And if you would like to see more, hey, subscribe's right there, and I'm not going to complain if you decide to poke that as well. And with that, I will be seeing you.